strongly caution, the following programs are intended for mature audiences over the age of 18. These programs may contain some material that many parents would not find suitable for children and may include intense violence, sexual situations, coarse language, and suggestive dialogue.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Sound Ejection. We are here with Kevin Mellon. Most of y'all know him from Archer and Hit Monkey, but we're talking music. There's music. I didn't know he does music too.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Not a problem. Not a problem. So you have a shit ton of albums.
Well, yeah, it's weird. I am an idiot, and I should have come up with different project names for all this stuff. But no, I didn't think that far back when I was starting to put stuff out. And so, I've got technically it's like one full length as a rock band, 2 EPs, couple singles, and then there's 3 albums of weird solo guitar instrumental music. So it's like this weird kind of like. Yeah, I should have named one of them a band name or something. You know what I mean?
So do you do everything yourself? Like you have somebody that you collaborate with?
Yeah, so the first album I put out back in like 2016, that was me kind of like, I'd been in bands in my teens, 20s, and then throughout most of, the last like decade, like up until 2016, 2017, like I was like, music's done with me. I'm done with music. And then life shit happened in the form of like, I had started writing, but then I had a tree fall in my house and it just happened to trap me under it. And so that kind of gave me this, fortunately it was okay. Other than, PTSD, of loud storms and tall trees, I was fine. But that's what that album kind of was like, that became about. It's called A Girl, a Tree, a Dream, because I fell for a girl, a tree fell on me, and then I fell out of my mind. So like, it's kind of this weird story of that, but that was done in collaboration. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said okay. Now I get it. It's all coming because I just, like I said earlier, I was watching all your stuff today, and it's on YouTube, by the way, guys. So check them out on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all that.
And with that story, it all makes sense.
Yeah, and I do talk about it, and I try to talk about it. That album's like I appreciate it, but it's also me figuring out how to do stuff, because up until then I'd never been the lead singer. I had been the co-writer / writer for other singers and stuff like that, but I'd never put myself out there like that. And so it's very much me learning how to do things, and I kind of consider that's like the training wheels. Because my buddy Sam Hoskins here in KC, he played bass and drums, helped me produce it, and all that. Then when it came time to do more music, I was like, okay, I don't play drum. I play drums, like a guitar player plays drums. But I'd been teaching myself how to program everything. So when it came time to do 2022's EP, Songs from the Giants Chair, I had actually written a couple albums worth of stuff that I just threw out, and then that EP kind of came out of like the flurry of like I need to figure shit out, and it was also just confidence. So when it came to doing that, I was like, you know what, I feel confident in my drumming, my programming, and all that stuff. So I did everything on that. Sam again mixed that one. Then for my EP that came out at the end of last year, The Harrowing of Home, that's all me, mix, master, everything. Like I really wanted to just, I think my buddy Dave played a guitar solo on it, and then the rest is, so, and that's the way all my stuff has been. I've got a new EP I'm working on where like there's a couple tracks that have a drummer on it, and then there's an extra vocalist on a couple tracks, which I'm looking forward to getting in front of people. But I really have gotten into, because you guys know this, it's really hard to get other people to line up and sync up, even just to like have a practice, let alone to learn parts, write parts, all that stuff. So, and I can sit here and do it in this studio, wrong direction, in this studio with stuff, electronic kit, guitars, all that. Like I have stuff that I can do it here. And it sucks because I lose the human element of collaboration, but I gain when I have an idea, I can put all of it down, that sort of thing. So, and that was a long-winded way of saying like that first album I love. It doesn't quite sound like the stuff after it, because it was me learning who I was and what I was going to be by myself, So
I was about to say, like, your genres, like, they kind of like jump all over the place depending on what you're listening to. Like, I was listening to one song off of like from the Inferno trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember the name of the song, but I felt like I was listening to like a damn love child between 9 Inch Nails and A Perfect Circle. And I was like,
that is me. That's me. That is, so yeah. I mean, I'll send you the new stuff. I'll send you the newer stuff offline. The new EP is like 90% done. I just need to finish a couple things, but I've got a couple more songs that have more growly vocals on it, because I've gotten better at that over the years. There's a song that has a female vocalist feature, like, so I mean, I think you'll even, because I've gotten the comparisons from everything from Tool, Perfect Circle, obviously, Failure, a little bit, obviously. The 9 Inch Nails thing is totally valid. A band called Elder, somebody I said to sound like them. Especially with my Soundgarden cover, I did a cover of Searching with Your Good Eye Closed, or Searching with My Good Eye Closed. Like, to me, I did my own, I literally kind of rewrote the song, because I was trying to channel, like, what if Clutch and Tool decided to cover that song, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
No, I absolutely love it. Like 9 Inch Nails and A Perfect Circle are like two of my like top 25 bands on there. So like I got into it big time when I was sitting there listening to it.
Yeah, I don't know which song you're referencing, but there's like the one that really makes me feel that way is there's a song, track 2 on Songs from the Giants Chair, called Ambient, that is basically just about hallucinating on sleeping pills. So,
Okay.
And it to me feels it feels the most perfect circle to me.
So at what age did you start playing music?
Later than I wanted to. I want to say I really started around the time of I know Wayne's World had just come out, and I got and I was getting into Hendrix, and I got a white guitar like Hendrix and like Wayne's World, which I still have next to me.
Holy cow.
This guitar it's from like 91 or 92, something like that. It's a Mexican Strat, but it was back when they made them out of all the American parts. So, anyways, that was probably I finally actually got a guitar around like 92. So I would have been, like 13ish or so, something like that. I had been wanting to play those since I was single digits. So it was just a matter of like convincing my parents and like basically going through a couple years of piano lessons and that not taking, I still can't play piano for shit, but I can fake it a little bit, but guitar, like instantly I was sneaking into my mom's office, and she had two, well, there's two actually, but there was a 63 Gibson acoustic, small body acoustic, and her mom had gotten them, and they were one serial number apart from each other. And so we had those in the house.
That's pretty cool.
One, I have one now still. The other one, sadly, died, was sacrificed when the tree fell on me, because it was next to me in my bed when the tree fell on the house. But unfortunately, I still have the one, so that's good. But I would sneak in and I would just try and write songs without knowing how to play guitar, and I would just play open strings and come up with melodies like that, even before I ever got any lessons or anything. So yeah.
Yes, I'm right there. I mean, I was very young when I started playing bass, but like I was never like professionally taught. Like I just sit there, like I don't know shit about music theory. Don't even ask me, because I don't even know. You could ask me what a chord was. I'm gonna look at you cross-eyed like, what? Because I just get on there and just play, and whatever sounds good. And I used to sit there and listen to music and imitate like Tool, and I was also a big Marilyn Manson fan, always have. So I started learning a lot of his stuff, back in like 95, 96, like sitting there learning
that
how
stuff,
to play his stuff.
I mean, that stuff's so key, just from like it's quote unquote simple, but it's grounded in like core fundamentals of like Trent and Marilyn, like fucking, a lot of it was like complexly produced, but just very simple songwriting. Just and it's not a dig. That's why it ruled. Like, it sounded more. It was so like, and that's something that I really, once I got into really learning how to mix and master my stuff over the last like couple of years, was treating it not like I was mixing and mastering a song, but like I was sound designing a scene in a, because having been in television and stuff like that, it's like, okay, what do I need to do to add to this scene in this moment? What do I want the audience to feel emotionally? And I feel like they did, especially, I mean, you listen to Antichrist Superstar, the thing plays like a movie,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So have you ever wrote for movies or animated series that you've done?
No. So, I mean, it depends on how you consider, like, this is a little blasphemous to say, but when you're doing storyboarding and when you're doing directing, there are times where you have to reconfigure some things. So there can be some not to use the term, but rewriting, but it's not, it's nothing you'll ever get credited for or anything like that. But you have to do what you have to do to make the scene work and to make the show work. And especially over the last couple of years with like pandemic and then the strikes and all that, you don't always have access to the writers to go back and fix it. So your team, whether it's like me and my supervising producers and like board artists and all that, we have to talk this stuff out and be like, okay, here's the scene, here's the dialogue, here's the intent of the scene, but we need to change kind of like the mechanics of how we get from point A to point C. So B becomes kind of this nebulous thing that we work out to figure out how to make that happen. Sorry, go.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, a show like Archer is so tightly scripted. There was you're not doing that, but Hitmonkey had a little wiggle room to kind of like, especially when it comes to action and kind of getting from point A to B in an action scene. Like, there's so much of like, these people they're doing their awesomeness to write these killer scenes, but sometimes you realize like, oh, we need to change a character's motivation, or that we need to add in this little bit of like business of like, they lose a weapon here, they need to struggle to get it back, and then that's not real changing the plot or changing any sort of the character arc, but it's just adding an arc to what's going on in the scene.
So what's going on in the scene, that's obviously going to play into the music whenever you're
very much so
writing.
Danny Rojas was the no relation to the Ted Lasso character, but Danny Rojas is an amazing composer. I think it's like D Rojas, Rojas on Instagram, something like that on Instagram. He's a phenomenal composer, but he did so much to enhance the mood of everything. And then I forget the name of the company that the music supervisors who kind of brought in like, pre-done tracks, like tracks they're already made, but they did a great job of like selecting stuff that really fit like the tone of everything. And most people don't realize that like when there's a show like ours, the music budget is almost non-existent. So you're really kind of like actually, and I love this about it. It sucks that the music budget is not as much as you would like, but the nice thing about it is it forces you to pick stuff that people don't know and haven't heard. So you're actually exposing people to music that otherwise would not be out there in this form. It's like bands with songs that like otherwise are not getting radio play. They're not, so yeah.
So I was always wondered about that. It's like, when you go to get somebody to do music for something like that, are they like watching it first and getting the feel of like what's going on to start getting ideas to write? Or
that's a great question. So throughout the whole process, we have what we call tone meetings, and tone meetings can take the form of, say it's as a director, me getting with my producers and our storyboard artists who are going to like rough out the show for the animators to work from and stuff like that. And the animators often, and the lead animation director will sit on this too, but we have a tone meeting where we go through the script and we talk about each scene and what it means, what it should feel like. We talk about like, hey, the budget for this episode isn't super hot, so we do where it says, hey, big fight scene, let's make it not so big. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And then what we'll do later on down the line. So just imagine that for kind of every stage of the process. At some point, we'll have a tone meeting where it's, I'm in there with my producers and then the show creators, Josh and Will, who will they will go through the animatic. And because by this point we've done boards and there's temp music in that's kind of like our best guess at what it should feel like. And then they talk it over with the composer saying, hey, this is tonally not right, or hey, this is tonally correct, but let's compose something here, or let's find a drop that we can put in here, like that sort of thing.
Gotcha. So we actually have a questions on your series. What was your favorite part of working on Archer?
Oh man, I was a big fan of the show before I got the job. So I was a fan of, for those who know, if you know, C-Lab 2021. But then Frisky Dingo was a kind of a proto Archer show that I love the shit out of. If y'all haven't seen it, go find it. It's got to be online somewhere, whether legal or illegal. And then when Archer was advertised, I was like, oh yes, because I wanted more of that show, and there wasn't going to be. So then Archer came around. And so first 2 seasons, I'm watching it as a fan. And then around the time where they start pre-production on season 3, the director at the time, who's now my friend and has been my, boss and mentor and throughout all the last decade, Neil, he put out a tweet saying, hey, we're hiring storyboard artists in Georgia, send me your links or whatever. And I just literally replied to the tweet, fuck, I wish I could apply for this, because I was in Kansas City at the time. I was in the Kansas City making comics, doing graphic novels, stuff like that. That was my life, and he replied and said, hey man, I know your work, let's talk. And so I did a test. They liked it enough that they hired me to work part-time from Kansas City on season 3. And at the end of the season, he was like, hey man, I know you got other shit that you can do, but if you want to come down to Georgia, you got a spot. So I was like, fuck it. I packed up my life and moved to Atlanta. And then I was expecting it to maybe last a year or two. And 12 years later, so yeah. Yeah. But to answer his question more directly, I said all that up to say my favorite part of working on the show was that I got to work on the show. I know that's a silly answer, but I needed to set up to say.
Actually, it makes more sense than anything else.
Yeah.
Especially if you're growing up as a fan of it.
It's, Adam Reed, the guy who created Archer and wrote the lion's share, like we're talking like 95% of the episodes from season 1 through, a lot of 10. And then he kind of backed off a little bit, seasons 10 through 14, but the man, he speaks to my heart as far as what is funny and what is lewd and what is, and he really, once he figured out around, season 3, 4, and 5, once he figured out that we could do action well, his willingness to just kind of let us play when it came to doing certain things. Like there's season 5, episode 7 is the opening 2 minutes is Archer and Ray and maybe Cyril. I forget. It's been a while. They crash and their car tumbles down a hill, kind of the Rundown style, like if you've seen that scene where the Rock and all that fall downhill, but it's like that, but in a Jeep. Like he wrote that in, and it's like, so I got to spend 2-3 weeks just boarding out this sequence just to make that happen, like stuff like that is fun. And I see your question, Joel. Yes, I got to meet most of the voice cast. I have never met H. John, and my interaction with Aisha Tyler was very fleeting, but Chris Parnell is a wonderful human being. The voice of Pam, which is Amber Nash, and the voice of Krieger, which is Lucky Yates. They're both Atlanta natives. So I'm fortunate enough to see them at events, see them around town, see them in the studio. Amber and Lucky have been guests at Planet Comic-Con here in Kansas City, which is my hometown show. Not together, but different years. They were brought in and loved, that was amazing. Got to do panels with them. I will say real quickly, the kind of the geeking out thing, as far as getting to meet people, is people that you would never even think watch TV were fans of the show. So they would come by and do tours, and I got to sit there and try and speak while looking at Daniel Craig as he's talking to me about how the show is made. And that man's eyes are no joke. You get lost. Like, I immediately was like, who am I? What am I doing? But he was very sweet, and he was a legit fan of the show because he asked questions about specific things. I was like, oh, I boarded that episode. Yes.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And we had a bunch of different people come through. I will say, because inevitably this always comes up, so I'll just skip to it. My favorite character is always either a tie between Cheryl or Barry. And Cheryl, that character is one of the funniest characters I think has ever been created, and it's all because so much of it, a lot of it, yes, it's in the writing, but so much of it's because Judy Greer is fucking amazing. Like, she is one of the funniest people, and so getting to meet her was very nice. But that's the voice of Barry is, oh my god, Dave Willis. Dave Willis is his name. He co-created and wrote and all that Aqua Teen Hunger Force, stuff like that. So, and he was basically always just around. I would see him at events, see him in the studio and stuff like that. So it was nice to be able to meet. And while, I'm not friggin' friends with these people, they're just, work coworkers and acquaintances. They're all incredibly nice and genuine and very kind of accommodating, especially when they're like, I work with you. Why are you sweating profusely and not able to talk?
I felt that same way, like back when I first started working for radio stations and we were covering, big, huge metal festivals. And I'm like back there in the back in the media tents and all these like big, huge rock stars that are my idols, like fucking coming up around. I'm getting the sweaty palms. I'm getting nervous as shit. Yeah. I'm like, God, do I smell good?
You got mom's spaghetti all over you. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, shit. I'm like sweating, like so bad.
Like, I remember this is totally tangential, but this is where my brain is going. So a buddy of mine, his older brother was in a short-lived band called Stun that came out of LA in like the mid 2000s and all that. But they were put on Warped Tour, and they were put on basically they got us backstage and on their bus and all that other stuff. But it was like when you're walking backstage, it was like, I don't remember what year it was. Like I said, mid 2000s. So height of Warped Tour. And it was so like hashtag Warped Tour. Like, it's like, this is, it is full form. And it's like, oh, there's that guy from Sum 41. Oh, there's that guy for, stuff like that, where it's like, what do I do with this? How do I act? What do I do with my hands?
Right. Which way do I go? Which way do I go?
Yeah. Do I look you in the eye? Is that going to be intimidating? Do we have to fight if I do this for more than like 30 seconds? Oh God,
right?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to fight you or kiss you? I don't know.
Or does one lead to the other?
Hey.
Oh, I know. It's absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. So have you ever thought about letting like cons and stuff let you play your music while you're doing what you do? You ever thought trying to do that?
There have been times where I've tried to organize shows after the day of, but I would not feel comfortable doing it on the floor because, like, all right, so you've been in public and you've heard people listen to YouTube or music on their phone with no earphones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Imagine that being a guy playing guitar in the middle of a crowded convention floor. That's just the worst. There is, you know what I mean? It's like Guitar Guy who brings his guitar to the party that nobody asked him to do this.
I get that because, like, I used to do a lot of tattoo conventions for whatever reason.
There's a different vibe with those, though.
to me, it was worse because like they would have bands playing on a stage in the back of the convention, and it was just like radiating through the whole entire thing with all these people.
Yeah, so all you hear is like,
yeah. Like all these people are like trying to focus on doing like permanent tattoos on these people. Like,
that, and I think that speaks to, so what I have tried to do, and I have done a couple, like I've tried to do stuff in concert, in organization with conventions, and it's always just such a logistical nightmare. So what I have done, like think twice now, is I've organized shows off-site that are just after. So it's like I get done with the show, I pack up, and then I go play. You know what I mean? Right. Like I've done that, and it's like, you know, and you get a handful of people that like whatever. But I wish there was a way to make it a more captive audience thing, because you know, it's like take Kansas City's show here, Planet Comic-Con. You know, like it has grown so much and continues to grow. Like I think last year it's like they had like 80,000 people over 3 days. This year, 2024, it was over 100,000 people over 3 days, which for a Kansas City show is huge. Like it's not San Diego, it's not New York, but those are numbers that you can't shake a finger at. Like that is undeniable in that sense. So it'd be nice to capture even 1% of that audience, you know, in some sort of event, but I just haven't found a way to make it work that makes sense with the logistics of having a full band and then getting people into that. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it would probably take there being a bigger band and then me opening for them in that, you know what I mean?
I got you. Here we go. We got a good little question here. Who do you listen to when you're stuck on an idea?
Man, that varies. Depends on what era of my life we're talking about. So let me go through like the last year or two is A Perfect Circle and Sleep Token. Yeah, big Sleep Token. Like I missed Sleep Token in Atlanta like 3 times, probably being like, why the fuck do I want to go see another masked band? Because I hadn't listened to them. I just knew they were a mask band, and I was like, oh, okay, this is more Mushroom Head. I don't need that in my life, you know? And no offense to Mushroom Head, but not my thing. But then once I actually listened to them, I was like, oh shit, this is amazing. Like even if you go back to the first stuff, like those first singles, first EPs, where it's like 3 minutes of piano and then he fucking rips your head off at the end. It's so good. Like it's yeah. So like everybody, I got into them. A Perfect Circle is always kind of a go-to, but 13th Step is kind of always perpetually playing in the back of my brain. So that, you know, that album. And then I'm a big Failure fan, and I love Kane Andrews. So like, again, you know, it's like Fantastic Planet's always good, but their last album is this like 35-minute, like 3 to 4 minute like pop songs from them almost. And like if you're a Failure fan, you would love it because it's just tight. It's just a good lean album. So that one's been on. And then honestly, like this sounds so gross, but I listen to my instrumental stuff, the solo ambient guitar stuff to write to, because it's like I made music for not paying attention to music on purpose. Like,
yeah,
you know, so it's like those Guitarscapes albums, like I have the problem, I have a 4th one locked and loaded. It's done because it's only 2 tracks, but it's an hour. You know, that's the problem though, is like I probably should go in and divide it up into more tracks, because the thing is when I make these, and not to tangent too much, but the thing that that's probably not online anywhere other than in podcasts, but when I make those, I don't write them. When you were listening to Guitarscapes, you were hearing what came out in the moment I was playing it, and I don't edit it other than to add maybe more reverb or more delay. Like I don't cut it out or anything like that. So what you were hearing, if that song is 5 minutes long, that's how long it took to play. If that song is 20 minutes long, that's what came out in the moment. And I like that because there's fuck ups in there, there's mistakes, but also when I'm sitting there listening to it, like I don't even think about the fact that I made it. It just puts me into a sense of like, okay, problem solve on these characters, problem solve on this drawing, problem solve on this storyline. You know, what do I got to figure out, you know, that I've got to get through? And it kind of is almost like a white noise to that sense.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, you have so many things. What drives you? Like, what kind of coffee do you drink? Come on, man. Like, spill the beans.
The coffee right now is the Sam's Club, Starbucks Pike Place, maybe. I don't know, whatever's on sale. It's not my fave, but it totally gets the job done. There is a shout out to Bare Necessities in Overland Park, Kansas. It's a couple blocks from me here, but I don't know what their coffee brand is. I'm sure I could Google it, but whatever that is literally like cocaine to me because it's so good. And I'm like, as soon as I'm done with my cup, I'm like, more, please, more.
All right.
Which, Tim, I have not tried Death Wish, but I need to. And then I've heard good things about Black Rifle. I have not tried it yet. But yeah,
Black Rifle's good.
Yeah, I've heard good things. Good. Yeah. I'm a medium coffee person. Like I'm not like I'm not a dark roast person. I think what's in the house right now is Starbucks dark roast, but I also tend to like you run the little pod with your grounds in it. Yeah. I do the refillable grounds, so you run the pot, but I run it through 1.5 times, so I'm already watering it down to like medium anyways. So yeah, because I'm a weenie. Yeah, and then cream and 2 Splendas. So
But man, you just got so much going on. I mean, what makes you like get up in the day? You know what I mean? Like
I don't want to get up. Like that's the thing. Bed is awesome.
Like,
I don't know what you're talking about. This whole get up thing. No, honestly, like there's 2 things that made me get up is the excitement to the create and the stress of needing to pay bills. So that's, what I mean? And sometimes it's a mixture of both, you know what I mean? But the exciting thing is like today was a weird day because I didn't get a lot of drawing done because I had meetings and then tons of emails and I had a bunch of scripts to read for a possible new project that I'm going to work on. So it's kind of a weird day, but like the last like couple weeks I've been working on this comic project where it's like I get up, I've got a girlfriend. She's got kids. Sometimes I sleep in and I'm not able to help her out because so I'm the asshole there. But if I can, I get up and make her coffee and all that and try to help out. But then it's a lot of it's just like answering emails, doing admin stuff for the first hour or 2. And then I'm renting studio space in a place in downtown Kansas City. So it's like I try to get there because while I can create here, for whatever reason, it's just harder. So I actually ended up having to rent space to just feel like I'm going to work. So I go there and it's more coffee. And then it's just settling down. Like, am I working? If I'm working on a thing that's like digital, like, it's like working on the iPad, working on the computer, like drawing that way. Or if I'm working on stuff where it's like I'm working on paper, kind of figuring out what I'm doing for that day, what needs to get done. And then trying to be mindful of like, honestly, like there's 2 things of like, don't get sucked into the internet hole and then don't get sucked into not getting up and walking around. So the nice thing about renting a space outside of the house, because I have a gaming chair here. It's comfy. I bought it expressly to ease, like, because when you sit all day, like back problems happen, stuff like that. At the studio, I have a shittier chair, so it forces me to kind of get up and walk around. And because it's in a studio space shared with our other artists, there's often other people there working, so let's go talk to them. And it kind of community and socializing helps a lot. So yeah, and then like I kind of try to. Man, I don't know how y'all feel about this, like, but I've figured out that no matter what job I have, if it's an 8 to 10 hour day job, there's really only about 4 to 6 hours of usable work anyways, because the rest of the time you're doing bullshit like admin or talking to people and all that other stuff. So having the studio, if I'm only at that studio space for like 6 hours, I know that it was generally probably 6 hours worth of solid work. So I actually got more done than, but like last 2 days here, it's been all iPad work because I'm drawing. The comic I'm drawing right now is all digital, so it's just been and I've needed to be here for various family obligations and stuff like that. I totally despise admin work too, Tim, but it's gotta happen. Somebody has to answer emails and somebody has to answer texts, and I don't have help doing it, so it's got to be me.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just today. It's been nice because I can sit here and I can work down here in the basement, in the studio here, or I can just take the iPad upstairs if I need to help out, and stuff like that, and just kind of make sure that the nice thing about having such a technologically forward setup is I can kind of work anywhere and in any condition, so.
Right. So Kelly asks, what is your favorite mixing software? Have you played with AI on any of your music? What are your thoughts?
Mixing software, I am all in on Logic. I was a Pro Tools dude for a long time, and then because I ran like a studio back in the late aughts, and then when I kind of got out of music for a while, I just went away from it all. And then when I got back in, it was because of like iPhone and iPad, GarageBand, stuff like that. And so I just was plugging in and doing that. And then once things grew to a place where I hit the limits of GarageBand, which really doesn't take that long, it was Logic. Just was like, well, I can migrate all my stuff into Logic without having to do anything extra. Whereas if I had gone back to Pro Tools, which is what I learned on and how I did everything for, 15 years. So I just went all in on Logic, and that's been what I've been doing. The thing I will say, though, is, Kelly, what changed my mixing and what made me go all in on mixing myself and doing so much like in the box myself was, and this is not a paid thing, but I just because it did change my world, was the Steven Slate VSX software and stuff. So the headphones, which are fine, but really just the access to that software and being able to listen to my stuff in multiple different rooms. I still do the car test, but I do the car test. I'm not running out to the car 4 times a night when I'm mixing a song. But like I used to, it's like I'm running out to the car to double check what I think is pretty fucking close, So that's kind of was a game changer for me over the last couple of years. And especially now that they have the system wide thing where you can use it on the whole, whatever, not to be a shill, but that kind of was a big game changer for me. Like as far as mixing goes, it helped me hear things. As I'm sure you both know, when you're mixing something, you don't always know what's wrong, and you don't know how to figure out what's wrong because you can't send it to somebody because you're not them. You can't sit there and pinpoint the frequencies that they're hearing weird and all that. So having the ability to go through all these different rooms and be like, what am I hearing? What am I hearing? And then, yeah.
Yep. I've been there and done that. So Mojo has a nice little game which we're going to play for the last about 20 minutes.
Let me answer the AI thing real quick. I apologize.
Go ahead.
I have not played with AI. So I'm that person that I'm not a fan of it for creating things whole cloth. I'm okay with it as a tool, but I think it still needs to be manipulated. So like an easy example is copyright. I mean, you can get away with using someone else's stuff if you change 30% of it by law. Like, so it's like you can remix something, which is how people get it with remixes, whatever, stuff like that. And whatever. With AI, I think that it's fine. Like I use ChatGPT to do bullshit. Like, hey, write me a very short letter an email to someone concerning this subject. And then I look at it and I use the parts that I want. And then I ditch the rest, or I just rewrite the whole thing. But it does, instead of me sitting there with a blank page for an hour, it gives me something that I can rewrite and I can fix or I can write over. And I think that's how it probably should be or would be best used in music. I don't take this in a shitty way, but I look at it as like, well, I can play and I can do all this stuff, so I don't need AI to fucking figure it out for me. Because for me, the fun is sitting there figuring it out. The fun is writing. The fun is storytelling. The fun is the process. So if you take away the process from me, then what do I have? And I don't know. So again, use it however you need to. I know people that have used it to varying degrees of success, but I look at it as it's a tool, it's a placeholder, it's a springboard, it's an idea, it's a thing for you to react to that you can then go in and either use or not use, but you can fix it, and you're giving yourself something that you can make that is hopefully new and original. So,
yeah.
Right. So Mojo's got a little game. She's got 25 questions that are numbered. The questions could be absolutely outlandish. There's no telling what you're going to get.
Fair.
Pick the number and you get the question. Mojo?
There's actually more now. We are at 36 because I had some more.
Okay.
1 and 36. Give me a number.
Let's start with my number, which is 27.
27 it is. All right. Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Yes.
I'm I'm a Dark Knight Returns kid. My first exposure to Batman. So my first exposure to Batman was two things, and neither of them hopeful at all. But Death in the Family, where it's the death of Jason Todd. So that storyline, that was some of the first Batman comics I ever got. And then the second-ish Batman comics I ever got was Dark Knight Returns. So, I'm ruined on Batman because that was how I started.
Yes.
I started with the Joker beating Robin to death with a wrench, or not a wrench, but a crowbar. And then Dark Knight Returns, where it's Batman going all out against everybody, so.
I was always a big I hated Superman, and everybody at school was like, "Oh, Superman." I'm like, "Fuck that shit, Batman." But then, like, Batman, it got so fucking dark, and that's what I liked about Batman was the fact that it went so dark and more adult based.
The thing I would say now, just as being the type of Batman fan that I am, is the thing that and people do try this to varying degrees, but I would love it if there was always more of a forward-thinking focus on the fact that he's supposed to be the world's greatest detective. He's supposed to be Sherlock Holmes that beats people up. Yep. So, you know what I mean? And that's the thing that I miss here and there is like whenever I check in on what's going on is it's like it is always seeing Leonardo's comment. Yes, Death in the Family is a hell of a way to start on Batman. But yeah, that's how it was. Like it was one of those things where it was like I got the issue and it's like there's a 900 number that you can call to vote to whether or not Robin lives. Dark. That is messed up. But yeah, I still view Batman that way. At the end of the day, whatever technology they throw on him, no matter what redesign it is, to me, it's always he should be, just Sherlock Holmes with muscles, So yeah,
he was more realistic for me than the other ones. Like Superman was an alien, right? And have all these other superpowers.
I didn't understand Superman because, like, when you grow up with Superman, and I was a nerdy kid who read about the origin of Superman, like I was checking out books from the library on how everything was made, when I was a little kid and all that stuff, but I still didn't quite get Superman. The times that I read Superman that I liked was always when he was facing a villain that was a super conflicted human, which is why Lex Luthor works, because Lex Luthor is right. That's the thing. Like the thing is like Lex is a normal person who said, I want to make the place that I live better, and then gain power doing so. And it made him a worse person. That's a normal thing that we see happen all the time. And, but also when you listen to what Lex has to say, like the best villains always believe them are always like, no, I'm right. Lex Cannon is right. So but the issue that comes out to me, that always stands out to me, is one of my first, like, it wasn't my first Superman issue, but it was one of the first ones that kind of tainted me, is where Superman fights the demon, but there's some sort of weird disease of crystal that makes them fight in this weird crystal palace or whatever. I don't know. It was written and drawn by John Byrne. There might have, who knows if there was drugs involved. I have no idea. But the thing about it, though, it was a morality play of Superman's ethics versus the demon's ethics and all that stuff. And that made me understand Superman a little bit as a kid. And then once I got older and started to see Superman as the immigrant, the immigrant metaphor, because it's like, how a lot of people use X-Men as like the identity politics metaphor and stuff like that. And I hate even saying politics, but just the identity metaphor and who you are and being othered and all that stuff. When you start to look at Superman as like the immigration and American dream metaphor and all that stuff, because there's people that will sit there and say, oh, it's a Christ metaphor, and yeah, whatever, who cares? That's not that doesn't matter. For like, you can throw that metaphor, you can throw that on anything, but like when you look at it from I have to try and figure out how to act like these other people to fit in, and it's a way of exposing humanity in a sense of like, oh, we're all doing something very performative in order to fit in, but we also have to reconcile that performativeness with who we are as people. And I think that's interesting. And I think the Superman Clark Kent thing is, when you look at it from that nature, is super revealing for who we are as a people.
Gotcha. All right, next number.
Yeah, sorry. There's a long answer for that one.
Whoa, you're good. That was great.
All right, 1 to 36.
Let's do 17.
17. All right. If you were in the WWE, what would be your name? I'd have to think of something good too, right? Because I'm already a Mojo.
So I already know this because I have a tendency to stumble into things or trip over stuff and break things accidentally. So my nickname amongst my friends who've known me the longest is the Masher.
The Masher? Okay. Are you going to be painted up? What's your suit? What kind of suit?
No,
I
think it's just me, my normal all black attire, and I stumble into the ring and then accidentally take people out because I'm not even trying.
It kind of reminds me of that Mortal Kombat character, the one that's always drunk, and he came in like the later Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, like one of his like things was like he was stumbling and would like fucking throw up on you and shit.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but I actually would play him a lot because he was so fun. So yeah.
Well, I can't remember his name either, but I just remember when he came out, I was like, oh shit, it's a fucking drunk dude.
Oh, Joel got it. Joel said Drunken Master. I was thinking Drunken Master, but I couldn't remember if that was his name. Also, to point out, Joel said Superman is Jewish. Superman was created by Jewish creators. So it's always kind of a contentious point between whoever is talking as to whether or not Superman is Jewish. So, and it's one of those things where it's like the creators, having read, their biographies and read books by them, they never felt that he was Jewish, but and it's, I don't know. I don't care either way. Again, if he's Jewish, it's still an immigrant story. It's still it's still someone trying to figure out their place in a society while trying to be a good person. So
yeah.
All right, next number.
Let's do a single digit. Let's just go with question number 1.
Number 1. If you can play in any genre of a band that is other than the one that you are in now, what would it be?
It would either be early The Weeknd style, like R&B hip hop type stuff, because that was like that guitar based kind of like echoey, delayed, slinky guitar stuff, which I really love.
Yeah.
Or probably 70s country, like Highwaymen's like late 70s, early 80s, but like those dudes just. It was so musical, and my fingers will never be able to do that. But if I could play like those 70s style guys, like the kind of backing musicians that played with like who's Take Me Home, Country Road to the Place, not John Denver, maybe? Yeah, John Denver, that kind of stuff. Just I don't know. I over the years I've come to really admire that kind of playing in a way that I hadn't before. But then also though, there's also the part of me that wishes I could have been in the Clash. So
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's all very different styles of stuff, but I mean, which is all whatever. Like with Oasis coming back, it's got me revisiting like 90s Britpop stuff, and I was never super into the mainstream. Like Oasis is fine, whatever, but I was more into like London Suede and bands like that, where it's like these kind of more like lethargic, sensual, like kind of Pink Floyd, but just on fucking the craziest, sleeping pills, that kind of stuff. Like, because there was like there's multiple ways of looking at like of 90s Britpop, and like Oasis is kind of like this like 4 on the floor, 4 chord, like it's the high melody, whatever. And but there was tons of other stuff, and I wish my memory was such that I could just rattle off the dozen bands that I want to, but I don't have that in my.
Yeah, I never really did get into the British bands when that whole like British invasion took off. I think about the only British band I ever got into was Blur.
Yeah.
And
I would say Blur is that line of like the pop and then the darker stuff, like what I'm talking about. Yeah. So like the more esoteric Blur stuff is kind of where you get into I went more on that deep end, and I'm not a big Blur fan, but like I said, London, for those of you who are listening, if you ever want to check out, in England, they were just known as Suede, but because of a copyright thing, they had to be called the London Suede over here. So check out the London Suede, their first 2 albums. I love a lot of their albums, but the first 2 especially are where people would probably kind of be like, oh, this is dark.
Yeah.
Weirdly sexual and a lot of guitar tone. Let's do the last one.
The very last one. All right, we can do the last one. The last one is a girl asks you to dance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, 1, are you going to be doing the 2-step, or 2, are you twerking? Which one you doing?
Oh, a little bit of both. You got to change it up. You know what I mean?
The 2-step twerk.
Yeah. I mean, I think here in the Midwest we call it twerk step. Yeah. No, I love dancing. I don't do it enough, and my poor girlfriend probably wishes that I would take her dancing. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where like I'm one of those people that like the dance floor is not the place you would expect to find me, but it's a place that I feel home. So it's good. It's a fun time. Yeah. I don't know anything. I just go out there and fucking move, and I probably look like a jackass. But you know,
I would hurt somebody. I would hurt somebody very badly.
This is why this is not dancing.
Can't dance. Like, if I went out there and tried to dance, I'd hurt her, myself, and other people.
This is why Skank and Pickle is not a place to learn new steps. Like that is not where you try out, you know. I do think it's funny though, like going to shows as a slightly older gentleman now, and it's like going to shows where the bands are like in their 20s and stuff like that I love it. It's the fucking best. But watching kids and like seeing like them, like, because like they've learned from watching us and older, you know what I mean? So they get out there and they try to do stuff, and it's like, oh, you're adorable. You are okay.
You am not wrong. Hold on.
Yeah. No, I haven't been to a club though, like as far as just a club where people are supposed to dance and all that. I haven't been like honestly, that's pre-COVID, because like COVID just kind of literally locked down, like, you know, curbed so many of my like bar activities that like, yeah, even now, like, that sounds like work. That sounds hard. That sounds.
I don't know if I have the dance groove anymore.
I know, right? I'm like on TikTok right now, it keeps trying to show me these Korean baseball cheerleaders, and they have this like they have these like dances for like when people get strikeouts and stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah, even that looks exhausting. That just looks I'm like, TikTok, why are you showing me this? Okay,
we
it's fine.
Have a baseball team in Savannah, Georgia, which is about 45 minutes from where I live, and they like dance and do acrobatics, and they're like the Harlem Globetrotters mixed with ballet, mixed with hip hop dancing while playing baseball at the same time. I love baseball. I don't watch as much as I used to, but I will say that anything that can make baseball a little bit more interesting, I'm a fan of. If you ever get a chance, look them up on YouTube. It's a team called Savannah Bananas, and
someone was just telling me about this the other day. I didn't think they were serious that was the actual name.
Yes.
No, I literally thought they were joking with me that was the name.
No, it's legit. That's the legit name of that baseball team.
Okay.
And it was wild to go watch them.
Yeah, no, I just looked it up, and I can't believe I have not seen that logo before. I spent 12 years in Georgia. I don't know how I don't know this was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, they used to be a minor league baseball team way back in the day for the Mets called the Savannah Sand Gnats. And then at some point they got bought out, changed the name to the Savannah Bananas, and then it became.
I will say I think Bananas is a better choice than Sand Gnats.
Yeah.
I do too.
Like if you're gonna go with a ridiculous name. Yeah. I'm thinking, especially if I was on that team and I had to, like, people were asking me, like, what do you do? Oh, I play baseball. Oh, who do you play for? The Sand Gnats.
At least our minor league hockey team has a better name. We have a minor league hockey team now that's the Savannah Ghost Pirates. So
that's kind of rad. Do they have hold on, I gotta Google this. Do they have a good logo?
Yeah. I actually have their jersey hanging up in my closet right now because I'm a big fan. I go to their games, so I'm there a lot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. That's not bad.
Yeah, they're pretty.
That looks like it should be on like a Four Loko or something like this. Which that's probably dating me as well, but yeah, whatever the equivalent of a Four Loko is now. That's the last time I worked in a liquor store was when Four Loko was out in the mid 2000s. So, anyways,
that is terrifying. All right, next number.
Oh, okay. So let's do Jagz, you pick for me.
Sure, number 13.
Number 13 is, what strings do you use when you're playing on your guitars?
Oh, actually, a great question. I use DR. Hold on, they're right here. So I use two different sets. One guitar. Sorry, I use two different sets. One guitar. I have a 72 thin line Telecaster reissue from the early 2000s that has Horizon devices, 10 to 58s on it. Okay. Which I love. That's for those of you who are Gent fans, that's Misha from Periphery. That's his company and his string gauges that he uses. I tried it just on a whim and ended up loving it. And so I just use it on just that guitar. This sounds like, I'm going to sound like such a jackass when I say this. The other 14 guitars I have, because I have way too many, are all strung with DR high beams, but it's a custom gauge from a guy here in Kansas City, and I forget his name. Is it on the box? It is not on the box. I forget his name, and I apologize, but it's an 11 to 52 set. So,
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Love those. It's as I get older and it gets harder to play and the fingers take a little bit more warming up, it fucking sucks playing with such heavy gauges, but I would not trade it because the sound I hear in my head and the way I love the tension. I love the struggle. So as I've gotten older and it gets harder to play, I actually enjoy that more because it takes more work to get at what I want out of the thing. And I do feel like there's a little bit of value in having to push yourself against the thing that you're doing, you know, and it's not comparable to lifting weights at all, other than just the repetition and the exercise, like the exercise in your hands. But there's like a thing of like that struggle of like, didn't quite get it, which sometimes live can fuck you in the ass. But like when you're just working at home and like working on songs, you know, it's a good, like, okay, can I get there? But then also I do such, as you guys have listened to, such kind of a mix of spacey and ambient and bass, you know, weird bass. Like the bass actually does a bunch of leads, you know what I mean? So the guitar has to hold down things in a way that, and so those heavier gauges tend to help that.
Gotcha. So now that we're at the end, where do you like to talk to fans? Where do you like them to go? Where can they go buy art? Where can they go listen to your music? Anything like that?
The all-in-one stop shop is kevinmellon.com or kevinmellon.rocks. They both go to the exact same place. And then there's links at the top of the website that take you anywhere else from there. If you want to find me on Twitter and Instagram, it's at KMellon, KMELLON. Please, you know, feel free. And then at Mellon Music for just specifically music stuff on Instagram. But I always cross post, so you can follow one. And as far as music stuff goes, you can follow one and you'll see stuff from the other. At K Mellon is more art related. You'll see it's more art, TV, directing, like related to stuff like that. But all the music stuff does end up there anyways. But kevinmellon.com, kevinmellon.rocks, and that's Mellon, MELLON, 2 L's. You know, that's where you can find me mostly. So and also, and if you have any questions or if there's stuff that you want to know that I touched on here or didn't touch on, my email address is right on the front page of the website. So you pull it up, you click on the email, and you can talk to me pretty easily. And I answer as best as I can throughout the day. So
thank you for joining us today. We are done for today. We'll be back on Friday with another episode. Until then, we'll see you guys later. Have a great night.
Thanks, you both.